baby boomer theology, so often iterated in commencement addresses, ringing in their ears. And then he articulates that theology. Follow your passion. Chart your own course. Follow your dreams. Find yourself. This, says Brooks, is the litany of expressive individualism, which is still the dominant theme in American culture. Again, quoting him, today's graduates enter a cultural climate that preaches the self as the center of life. But, says Brooks in his concluding sentence, the purpose in life is not to find yourself. It is to lose yourself. Are we going to have to turn to the editorial pages of the New York Times in order to correct the warped theology of contemporary evangelicalism? And we shouldn't assume that this kind of pushback to any realistic, proper sense of inadequacy is a 21st century phenomenon, because it isn't. In 1946, John Sloan, who was then president of Dartmouth College, told the graduating class, quotes, "There is nothing wrong with the world that better human beings cannot fix." In 2010, last year, the current president of Dartmouth, Jim Young Kim, referenced the statement from 1946 and then told the graduating class, quotes, "You are the better human beings we've all been waiting for." Now, if you found the statement in 46 staggering, what do you make of such a statement in 2010? The starting point for this mentality actually is not high school graduation. It's beginning a lot earlier than that, as those of you who are doing child psychology know. The time when children could relax and be children and fall off their bikes and fail has faded into the dim and distant past. Achievement is a from and now as parents are cheers, direct pitching motions of leaders, because what we tolerate is for somebody to be failure, or to find out that he has an inevitable storm and he's just got to live with it for the rest of his life. Now, you're sensible people. You read the paper, you review culture. The idea of inadequacy or failure as important to usefulness. Someone as significant as Steve Jobs, in his now legendary graduation at Stanford University in 2005. Steve Jobs at least moved in the direction of Paul's perspective. He tied his being fired from Apple at the age of 30 to significant progress in his later life. This is what he said: "It turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything." But actually, that perspective is still more than a Sabbath day's journey away from the biblical framework. Let me give it to you at the most trivial level that I have noticed it. This goes back to when I was still a teenager, to Bushy in Hertfordshire, the first time that I ever saw an American football game. The Army, the United States Army, were hosting a team. I hadn't a clue really what was going on, but I stayed there because I liked the girl who'd taken me. Still do. She's my wife. I believe she still likes me as well. I trust so. But I was struck by the uniqueness of the game and these cheerleaders. As a teenager, you would expect me to be struck by the teenagers, but it wasn't how they looked, it was what they said. And they must have said more than this, but they definitely had this as their central cheer. And it went like this: "You can do it, you can do it, you can, you can. You can do it, you can do it, you can, you can." The fundamental problem was they couldn't. because they were annihilated by the army. The army threshed them. And I remember the score becoming so unbelievable. I'm used to football played with your feet, and the score is relatively minor. But they were like at 37-3 as the sun began to wane in the sky. But still they were there. You can do it. You can do it. You can. You can. Somebody should have had the courage to say, stop that. Well, that's enough on the culture. Let's change gears once again and ask the question, where then does the contemporary church fall in relationship to these things? If there is any sense of accuracy in what we're suggesting from the biblical model here as it relates to Paul, and if one's generalizations from the culture hold any water, then would it be fair to say that the church is firmly grounded in its understanding of inadequacy as a foundation for use? Or do you think that the church has capitulated to the spirit of the age, and the average seminarian is about to launch himself or herself on an unsuspecting church and let them all know how brilliant she is or how terrific he is and how they just can't wait to discover it? Now, I'm going to spend less time on this purposefully. I'm also going to put my sentences in the interrogative rather than in the declarative. I am also not going to give specific examples with people's names. And therefore I run the risk of falling down in a morass of generalizations. Having said all of that, by way of disclaimer, let me play my hand. You will recall that when Nehemiah was assigned the task for the rebuilding of the walls and the rehanging of the gates in the broken down context of Jerusalem, the first thing that he did, pray. Then he did a